Welcome to the Roo Dits and Loz podcast, kept hot by Ream. You can listen to this podcast anywhere you like, even in the shower. Ream, Australia's favourite hot water.
This is The Bump, the one podcast SA footy fans need to hear, where the biggest names tackle the biggest South Australian footy stories. Roo, Dits, Bernie, Jars, Triple M's The Bump.
Oh, another week in footy. Bernie, Jars and Dits with you on The Bump this week. Roo's gone into hiding. No, he hasn't.
Has he?
I'm kidding. No, we rotated a bit here, as you know. Look, I listened to your boys' show, The Rush Hour, on Friday night, and I thought you went hard and you took a lot of phone calls on the Crows situation at the moment, and I thought you covered it really, really well. Since then, we've had Tex Walker on the Triple M Breakfast Show. I want to start with Graham Corns, former Crows coach, who on 7 News had this to say.
Where does Nixie go from here? You can blame injuries, but it's been painfully obvious, and I've been saying it for 2 years, they lack elite talent. Where's the strong, intercepting, marking, rebounding defender? Where's the match-winning ruckman? Where are the big-bodied, explosive midfielders that the top teams have? And who can stand up in the forward line when Taylor Walker's not there? Matthew Nicks took over the club when it was at its lowest ebb. Improvement was never going to come without speed humps. Hand on heart. Does Matthew Nicks really deserve to be sacked? I don't think so.
What's your reaction to that?
Spot on. Yeah, he's basically supporting Matty Nicks, knowing that this group has this senior coach hasn't had the elite talent drafted in the last 5 to 7 years.
Right.
Now, we've picked up 1 or 2, you know.
Dawson Rankin.
Yeah,
Rankin,
trades.
but he's
yeah.
talking elite talent. Is there elite talent out there? Is there enough elite talent out there?
All right. As a commentator, the only way I can answer that, Bern, if I always say this, if other teams wanted someone from the Crows right now, Dawson Rankin, and I probably can't name anyone else.
I'd go after Hinge, Michael Annie, maybe you could throw them in.
Oh, sorry, Michael Annie. I agree
I'll
totally.
put Michael Annie in there, not
but
Hinge.
all right, but all Australian types or stars in their side at the moment, I'd go Dawson Rankin.
Yeah.
It's thin. It's thin.
It's very thin.
It's not good.
Very thin. But I don't know how we keep getting it, or Adelaide, when I say we, Adelaide keep getting our first round picks wrong. Like, you know, it's been a long time. It goes back to mid-2000s, you know, like Lawrence Angwin, and, you know, you go back a long way. All of our first, John Mason, they're all under pick 10, I think, and or definitely first rounders, and they just haven't really worked. So
in response to that, and I've heard Roo say this before, privately probably, but, you know, he would say, well, don't you reckon we wanted Connor Rosie? But when it came up, he'd already gone.
Yep.
He said, don't you reckon we wanted Zach Butters? But when it came up, he was already gone.
We'd already taken Chase Jones.
Yeah, and you can name all sorts of players that he says, well, of course we wanted them, like starring for other clubs. But when it comes to your pick, you can only go with what's available.
But in fairness, pick 9, Chase Jones, pick 12, Zach Butters. So Adelaide could have had Zach Butters if they wanted him.
All right, that's a fair point.
That argument.
And Jordan Galucci.
Connor Rosie was 5, so he was gone.
That's a fair
in
point.
2016 was what, a pick 15? Guess who was waiting in the wings? Will Hayward.
Yeah.
So they went with Galucci instead of Hayward.
Hindsight's a good thing as well.
It's hard to
Absolutely.
know those things.
It's
But
a tough.
We're talking about the now.
No, but I'm talking Ned McHenry at pick 15 or 16.
Yeah.
You know, it's been Galucci, you mentioned. You know, Phil thought we got a pick 2, and he's going to be a good player.
He's going to be a good player.
But it's just been a tale of, you know, and you look at Mackesy, he's gone. That's
So
probably the
it's-
last 4 or 5 years, and there's been no. And you look at other clubs, what they've picked up in those, they've got the elite mids, they've got the elite running half backs with those
Right.
picks.
So I've listened to you. I listened to Friday's show, and I've listened to you now. So what you're saying is, let's not just focus on the last couple of weeks' bad results. You're saying this has been a 5 to 7 year
think so.
process of making mistakes.
Correct.
That's what you're saying.
Correct. Yeah.
Right.
And Tim Silvers, the CEO, has come out strongly over the weekend supporting his key people in those key roles down there at West Lakes. Look, we interviewed him, as you said, on Friday, and personally, I didn't think he was strong enough as a CEO.
Right.
You know, if we turn the clock back at the Adelaide Crows, when you got results, you had strong, tough, uncompromising leaders.
Yep.
Bob Hammond, our chairman of the inaugural footy club. Graham Corns is our senior coach initially. Then you get John Reid comes into the system.
Intimidating they
They're
were.
strong.
Yep.
They make decisions. You know, Bob Hammond would be turning over in his grave because he was a hard, fair individual, but he got things done.
Yep.
And he wouldn't put up with any of this.
Do we have any? Did Adelaide have
No.
any of those intimidating
No,
sort of?
they don't.
I reckon Roo is.
Yep, he is. Yep. Is he able to have enough say in that? I don't know. I'm talking sort of coaches and people there game day there.
But Bern, can I just put this to you? This is a generalisation. I reckon those days are gone.
Yeah.
The players run the game now.
They do.
And it's wrong. And in my eyes, totally wrong.
A lot of player power.
But imagine if you're the coach that comes in and belts the desk now with your fist and say, you're out, you're
You'd be
dropped.
gone.
The Players Association rings 1 minute later and says, no, you can't do
ridiculous.
that. No. Or a player says, I want to have Friday off because I've been running too much lately. Coach in the old days was a pig's ass. You're running. You're
You'll
doing
be
laps.
running more
The
now.
Crows
Now,
have sacked
Players
every-
Association comes in and says, no, you know they're allowed, the bargaining agreement, they've got to have 2 days off per month. And they got the players run the game.
Correct.
Yep.
And it's wrong.
And it's the Adelaide Crows have sacked every senior coach bar Blighty. Right. Manny Nix is running at 25%.
Did Pikey get sacked? Did he walk?
No, he walked.
25% win-loss ratio at the moment, isn't he?
Yep.
Nixie running at
Yep.
25.
Yep.
Back in the day, he's gone.
Yeah, but again, that's about you.
And I know I'm going back.
The list.
I want to put something to you, and again, this doesn't talk about the last 5 to 7 years, but talks about the now. So once when I was working for Channel 7 as a reporter, I had to go down and interview Neil Craig, who was I always found had some great sayings and was
he
very
did,
funny.
He's
But
very sharp.
he said it was the start of the season. He said, "Where do you reckon we'll finish this year?" To me, he said, "Just want your opinion." I said, 10, 11, 12. He said, "Right." He said, "So if I finish 12th, are you going to be one of the blokes that slams me at the end of the year and says I do a bad job? Because you said I was going to finish 12th."
It's a good point.
It's a very good point. So the reason I raised that is, where did you think the Crows were going to finish at the start of the year?
I had him out of the 8.
And they're out of the 8.
Yeah.
So therefore, we're all ringing in radio stations and going, get rid of this bloke and get rid of that bloke. And
I think their supporters, though, Dits, their true blue supporters, thought this year was going to be a top 8 and push even for further, top 4 even. They were excited about this year, don't get
All
that.
right.
And the way they were going, it's probably fair because I just picked that they'd have a little setback year, whether this year or next year, that can drive them again next year. But I'm worried about next year.
But
even
this
now.
list is not. This list this year wouldn't have got.
But how'd they get it done last year?
Because they don't. They have a. And I've been banging on about the midfield group. That's not an elite midfield group.
How did they
which
get
we're
it done
talking about.
last year? Nearly get it done.
Well, because
they
Tex kicked 75.
Yeah.
Had a great year. Dawson had a wonderful year.
He's having another good year, though.
Yeah, he's been okay. He's been very good, actually.
Rankin's
Dawson.
having a better year.
Yeah.
It's been the drop off of the bottom 6 or 7 for me.
Good call.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
that's the depth of performance is the issue at Adelaide.
Tex Walker on the Triple M Breakfast Show talking about the injuries. Who hasn't been playing?
If you take 7 or 8 of your starting 18 out of your team, and we've had that in myself, Ranks, Thilthorpe, Murray, Millerer, Crouch is out, Worrell's out. And if you're a Crows fan driving along, you're probably going, "Oh, here they go. Here's excuses." It's the facts. We've had long-term injuries. We've had a few of our key players out, so it does leave a massive hole game day.
Well, I think he's right.
Yep. No, that's fair.
To your very important.
But do you want to compare other teams? Like, do you want to compare Richmond? How many they had out?
Yeah.
So that's who they played. And Richmond aren't as good a team as Adelaide, you wouldn't say. And they had a heap out.
Haven't won for 2 months.
Haven't won for 2
Had a lot of
months.
VFL
So I
players
mean, they've
playing
been
there.
their
I
performance
think
been
that's
a
where
little
the
bit
frustrations
better.
come.
But you can have excuses for yourself. But the other team had just as many. So in my eyes, at home, if you think you're going to be a good side, you win that. You got to get it done. I don't care if it's ugly, by a point, by 10 goals. You get that done if you think you're a good side. And they weren't able to do it. And in big moments, that third quarter, when they kicked that first goal after half time, Ballways, I think it was, I thought, oh, here they go. They'll really put them to the sword now. Richmond kicked the next 6, I think, and that was the ball game right there. They just wanted it more. They were hungry. They were happy. You could see them. They hadn't won for a while, and they got their tails up.
There was no resistance, was there?
No.
So this week they play Sydney.
Okay.
I just want to mention here the names: Heaney, Goulden, Warner, Papley, Hayward, and the list goes on. Now, no, but they're A
McDonald.
grade. So you pay to go through the gate to watch them every week. I'll
exciting.
go back to the Crows. Who's exciting? Who's an A grader for the Crows? I can name, again, I'll say, I think Dawson's an outstanding player.
Yep.
Rankin, when he's playing, is magnificent. There's no doubt Michael Lanny's a big star of the future.
Yeah.
There's not a lot that get you excited.
Saligo excites me. They haven't got the X
Sligo's
factor.
not in that level yet.
No, but
That
he
group
excites
of
me. I
players,
love
yeah.
coming to watch him.
Yeah, okay.
I love coming to watch him and Rankin, Tex. Yeah, Michael Lanny, good defender.
So it's going to be.
It sort of shallows out pretty quickly.
You're playing the best side in the competition. They're 11-1, and they gave Geelong 5-6 goals.
Yeah.
Geelong, the Geelong Football Club,
Came back and won.
and
Yep.
came back and won. So, as a Crows fan, what will be their expectations this week against Sydney at home?
Well, they'll be trying to win, but I don't think they
What
can.
will be Nixie's? What will be his theme this week? Who's he going to pick?
I think his theme will be try. Get out and give me something. Have a crack, because they're not doing it at the moment. As simple as it is, give me some contest.
Yeah.
Give me something to work
want
with.
effort,
There's only
don't you?
so much the coaches can do during the week. I'm telling you. I know they've all been rated in the paper and they're all getting Fs, and that's because the supporters are
that's
unhappy.
guesswork, though.
That's supporters that are unhappy.
Would a supporter in the outer know whether Scott Burns is doing a good job or
No,
not?
they wouldn't
have a clue.
No. They might be doing the best job in the world
Correct.
behind
They
closed
only
doors,
just see
but
win-loss, don't they?
at the end of the day, the players at some stage, Dits, have to turn up and I use the word try, but they have to turn up and give some sort of contest because they're not at the moment.
No.
And the coaches must go, well, I've done everything right. We've watched all this vision. We know exactly how the opposition plays. We know how to beat them. We need to be good in the contest, and we just haven't done it. So what do? Do I tell them 5 times instead of 3 times? Do I hold them in another meeting for 3 hours instead of 2 hours?
Yeah.
That's not the answer.
No.
At the end of the day, the players have got to stand up at some stage and give something because I'd be so frustrated if I was a coach at Adelaide.
Yeah. Jars, you've been pushing for Strawny, the ruckman, for 2 years
Yes,
now.
I have.
He finally got a go.
Yeah.
How did you see it?
I was very impressed with his performance. I really was. He covered the ground. I thought his work around the stoppage. Now, Nankervis is a big boy, don't get me wrong, but
He was good.
he kicked the goal. He just like the midfielders knew some clarity when when the stoppages were on. So I watched him very closely, and unfortunately he hurt himself. His body, like compared to and the rigours of AFL football, that's his first game in 18 months, I would imagine. So if he's going to pull up fit, I hope they back him in again this week. Give him a month. Mm-hmm. But I know O'Brien played well in the Sandful against South Adelaide, so I reckon they'll just bring O'Brien back in, and then Strachan will be back in the Sandful, or have a week off with his groin.
He'd probably be injured with
but
his groin.
I was very impressed. I'd give him another go.
I was pretty happy with him.
All right, let's move on to Port Adelaide. Had the week off. We can't say a lot about them, but Chad Corns actually, I thought, said something really interesting about their ball movement.
We're going to double down on the importance of our ball movement. I think that is one of our real weapons, but has been games where we've gone away from it and the ball's become a bit stagnant, a bit too straight line. So we've got a lot of weapons in terms of our offence, and we just need to see that more consistently.
He's actually right. The times when they get it right and it's fast, their players use their speed. We know who the stars are, and they go bang, 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 down the ground, kick a goal. They look amazing. What happens, though, when they turn the ball over or lose it? They've all sprinted forward so hard.
They get exposed.
There's nothing back, is there? And they've got to get that balance right.
And that's field positioning too, isn't it, Byrne? Don't get sucked up too high. So you've got to have a couple of good players that can read that offense or when they do turn the ball over deep in their forward line. And they've got to react quicker. The players have got to get in position quicker these days. That's what football's all about now. Yeah, love the way they move the ball with offence, Port Adelaide. And then when it does turn over, what are they doing without the footy? And that's where they're falling down, like Shaddy said.
Don't stop taking the game on, though. You've got to keep taking the game on.
I don't think you can sprint forward until you've actually got the ball, though.
No.
Some of them have been running through that centre square like they've already got it.
I'd like Adelaide to take a bit of that out of Port Adelaide's book because they don't take the game on at all at the moment. They're so safe. So, you've got to get the balance right. The Crows, they don't take the game on. They're so slow and I don't know what they're doing.
GWS away for Port Adelaide. So they've had a break. They can regroup. Are they good enough to turn this around and really challenge?
This will be a tough one.
Giants aren't going as well as what they were.
What about for the rest of the year?
Oh, that's a big call. I think they slip into the bottom half of the
Part
eight.
of the eight,
Yeah, I think they do. I think they play.
Finals. I think you'll win enough games.
Realistically, we know Port Adelaide need to finish top 4, I feel.
Yeah.
Where do you rate your list? If we're comparing Adelaide Crows, they've got 1 or 2 elite players. If we're using that term elite,
I think Port Adelaide's top half a dozen are real good. I go back to the.
Are they real good or elite?
No, there's half a dozen players that are outstanding, and then unfortunately, I think we've seen this year that it does drop off. Do
you have enough players that hit like the contested side of footy?
No.
Because Sam Powell-Pepper is an enormous loss for your group.
He is. He's huge.
Your barometer.
Well, I think you've
totally underrated,
and you haven't replaced him. And there is some players in that group who don't like the contest.
Yeah, there's. I think you do have enough talent. Like you've got more talent than Adelaide. It's just whether they are consistent with their effort in big games.
That's
so
right.
there's always that question mark in big games. I know it's easy to go back to big games and all this stuff and what is a big game.
No, but it's true.
But you look at your performers throughout the year that are good performers.
Yeah.
And they're not in those big games or, at the MCG or in a final. So, I mean, how many big games and how many finals do you need to lose to go, well, they're just not going to get it done for me. I don't care if they play well against
North Melbourne.
West Coast and North Melbourne in Hobart because I know I could run out there and Port would still win.
Yeah.
I want to know who's going to stand up and start eventually, because it's been going on for 3, 4, even 5 years. Eventually, you got to put a line through some of these or move them on. Other clubs would take them on because they're okay players, but they're just not getting it done. And if you're not getting it done in big games, that's what you want, don't you? As a coach or as a list manager, players that can stand up on the big stage. Which there's a few of them that are good during the year, but big stage, consistent non-performers.
Yep, good call. All right. Enjoy your week at the footy.
Okay,
we'll do it
Dits.
all again next week on The Bump.
Roo, Dits, Bernie, Jars. Triple M's The Bump.